Imagine a scene where the heavens tremble and a warrior stands firm, glowing with divine light, wings spread wide, ready to defend all that is sacred. This is Michael, the angel who defends heaven, a protector of God's throne and a guardian over the souls of humanity, standing as a living example of courage, faith, and devotion. In the next few minutes, we will uncover who Michael truly is, why his mission matters, and how his example calls us to reflect on our own lives and the pursuit of holiness. Welcome to Divine War Stories, the channel where we explore the unseen battles in heaven, the stories of angels, and the divine lessons that impact our lives today. Here, you will discover not only the epic tales of celestial warriors but also how these accounts teach us about faith, spiritual discipline, and the care God has for our souls. Now, let's dive into the life and mission of Michael, the angel who defends heaven. Michael is more than a warrior. He is a symbol of unwavering faith and divine purpose. In Scripture, he appears as a commander of God's heavenly hosts, confronting forces that oppose God's kingdom. His role demonstrates that holiness is not just perfection, but living a life aligned with God's will, guided by his love and concern for the soul, which is our most valuable treasure. Christ calls us to pursue this path, not as an impossible demand for flawless behavior, but as an invitation to honor God in our daily choices, serving others, and embracing spiritual discipline as a reflection of divine care. The angel Michael is often depicted standing fearless against the powers of darkness. His courage reminds us that being devoted to God requires standing firm, even when life challenges our faith. Holiness is not about avoiding mistakes. It is about striving to live in a way that protects our inner soul, reflecting Christ's teachings through actions of integrity, mercy, and compassion. Through Michael, we learn that our spiritual journey is both personal and communal, calling us to protect the vulnerable, defend truth, and honor God in how we live each day. Michael's victories in the heavenly realm illustrate the spiritual battles every believer faces. Though humans cannot achieve complete perfection, Christ invites us to pursue a heart aligned with divine principles, caring for what he values most, our soul. Holiness becomes a guiding force, shaping our thoughts, words, and deeds. By following Michael's example, we are reminded to stand firm in faith, to seek God's wisdom in decision-making, and to extend love to those who cannot defend themselves, reflecting the angel's devotion to divine order and protection. The angel's presence in Scripture reminds us of God's concern for both heaven and earth. Michael acts with authority, yet with compassion, teaching that spiritual discipline is meant to nurture, not burden. Christ's call to holiness emphasizes caring for our inner self and others, creating a life that mirrors divine love. As Michael guards against evil, we are invited to recognize our responsibility in promoting justice, mercy, and grace in our communities, understanding that holiness is about intentional living and aligning our priorities with God's heart. Michael's image as a heavenly warrior is striking, but his mission extends beyond battle. It is about protection, guidance, and obedience. This teaches us that holiness involves mindful choices, prioritizing God's will over personal gain or fear. Christ encourages us to cultivate a life where our soul's value is preserved through acts of kindness, integrity, and care for those in need. Through Michael, we understand that living in alignment with God is not about perfection but about embracing the sacredness of our lives, ensuring our actions reflect divine purpose. Throughout Scripture, Michael confronts spiritual opposition, demonstrating steadfastness and devotion. His actions serve as a model for believers, showing that spiritual vigilance, guided by Christ's principles, is essential for a life that honors God. Holiness, in this sense, is an ongoing practice of choosing righteousness, pursuing justice, and protecting what is sacred. Christ calls us to act in ways that reflect divine concern, supporting the marginalized and showing mercy to the vulnerable, echoing Michael's commitment to defend and preserve the order of God's creation. The angel Michael also embodies patience and discernment, reminding us that holiness requires thoughtful reflection. It is not impulsive heroism but careful alignment with God's instructions that strengthens the soul. Christ's call to pursue holiness is a call to intentional living, focusing on the eternal value of our inner being rather than fleeting worldly success. Michael teaches that protecting the soul involves vigilance, prayer, and dedication, encouraging believers to seek wisdom, act with love, and remain steadfast even when spiritual battles seem overwhelming. Michael's example also speaks to the importance of community. Though he operates in heaven, his actions influence and protect humanity. Similarly, Christ calls us to be active participants in our communities, serving others through love, charity, and faith. Holiness manifests when our choices reflect God's concern for all souls, especially the needy and vulnerable, including orphans and widows. By modeling care and compassion, believers embody the principles of divine love, demonstrating that spiritual devotion is inseparable from acts of service and justice. Reflecting on Michael's unwavering mission encourages us to embrace courage in the face of trials. Holiness is not a static state but a dynamic pursuit, inspired by God's call and exemplified through faithful action. Christ's desire is for our hearts to prioritize the eternal well-being of our soul, guiding decisions, attitudes, and relationships. By studying Michael, we learn that true spiritual strength arises from aligning our lives with God's will, defending the vulnerable, and embodying mercy, integrity, and faithfulness in everyday life, shaping a legacy of holiness grounded in divine purpose. In light of Michael's example, we are reminded that the pursuit of holiness is intimately connected to our care for others. Christ instructs us to protect what is valuable, our souls and the lives of those around us. Holiness becomes practical, expressed through acts of kindness, service, and faith-driven courage. Observing Michael's dedication teaches believers that spiritual discipline is not a distant ideal but a lived reality. By following Christ's call, we preserve the soul, engage in meaningful service, and contribute to a world that mirrors the protective, loving nature of divine justice. Continuing from Michael's example, we realize that holiness is not about flawless performance but about consistent alignment with God's heart. Every choice to act with compassion, honesty, and courage strengthens the soul, the treasure Christ values most. Michael's vigilant defense of heaven reminds us that spiritual life demands awareness and commitment, standing firm in faith even when the world around us seems uncertain. Believers are invited to embrace this responsibility, understanding that small acts of kindness, guided by God, carry eternal significance, shaping not only personal character but the well-being of those we serve and protect. Michael's battles are not just celestial, they teach us about confronting inner struggles. Holiness involves recognizing temptations, fears, and doubts, then responding with trust in God's wisdom. Christ calls us to protect our soul by making choices that reflect divine love and concern. This may mean prioritizing prayer, scripture, and service over fleeting pleasures or worldly approval. By studying Michael, we see that spiritual protection is both proactive and intentional, guiding our actions to safeguard not only our own hearts but also the lives of those around us who rely on mercy, care, and support. The angel's dedication illustrates the necessity of vigilance in our spiritual journey. Holiness manifests when we actively choose to live with integrity, kindness, and obedience to God's will. Christ's command to pursue this path emphasizes that our soul is of supreme value, more precious than wealth or comfort. Michael exemplifies this by standing unshakable before evil, showing that devotion is expressed through action. Believers are invited to embody this same courage, facing challenges with faith, serving others selflessly, and keeping the soul aligned with God's guidance, ensuring that our lives reflect divine purpose in every decision. Michael also demonstrates humility within great authority, reminding us that holiness is paired with submission to God. True spiritual strength does not seek recognition but seeks to honor God's priorities and protect His creation. Christ desires that we care for the vulnerable, including orphans and widows, showing mercy as an extension of divine love. Michael's example inspires believers to cultivate inner strength through prayer, scripture, and service, understanding that holiness is practical, relational, and deeply connected to God's concern for both our souls and the community we inhabit. Observing Michael encourages us to see spiritual discipline as a lifestyle, not a one-time achievement. Holiness is an ongoing journey of making choices that safeguard the soul, promote justice, and serve others. Christ calls us to this pursuit, knowing that perfection is impossible, yet valuing our efforts because they reflect love, devotion, and care for what truly matters. By embracing Michael's model, we learn to confront challenges, practice mercy, and maintain faith in God's plan, ensuring our actions carry eternal significance and inspire others to reflect on their spiritual journey. Michael's vigilance is a reminder that spiritual life requires discernment. Holiness grows when we understand the difference between temporary gain and eternal value, making choices that honor God and protect our soul. Christ calls us to prioritize what he values most, nurturing faith through scripture, prayer, and acts of service. By following Michael's example, believers learn to confront fear, resist distractions, and engage in the world with intentional love, showing care for those in need, and reflecting the protective, compassionate, and courageous nature of divine guardianship. The angel's mission demonstrates that spiritual strength is inseparable from love and service. Holiness is revealed in practical ways, supporting the vulnerable, giving to the needy, and offering comfort to the oppressed. Christ commands this not as an impossible law, but as a reflection of divine concern for our soul and the lives of others. Michael teaches that courage, faithfulness, and compassion coexist, guiding believers to live intentionally. Every act of love and protection strengthens our connection to God, shaping a life that mirrors divine justice, mercy, and care, impacting both our heart and the community around us. Michael reminds us that perseverance is key in spiritual life. Holiness is a daily pursuit, an active engagement with God's will, characterized by faith, courage, and devotion. Christ emphasizes the value of our soul, guiding us to make choices that reflect eternal priorities, including kindness, honesty, and service. By studying Michael, we are inspired to maintain integrity, confront spiritual challenges with courage, and act for the benefit of others. Holiness becomes practical, alive, and accessible when we emulate his dedication, allowing God to transform our lives and guide our hearts toward what truly matters. Understanding Michael's mission encourages believers to connect faith with action. Holiness is expressed in tangible deeds, helping the marginalized, showing mercy, and living ethically in everyday life. Christ's call reminds us that even imperfect attempts at goodness hold eternal value, as they reflect a heart aligned with God's concern for the soul. By following Michael's model, we learn to face challenges with faith, serve selflessly, and maintain spiritual vigilance. Every choice to act with love, courage, and discernment nurtures the soul and strengthens our witness to God's care, mirroring heavenly protection here on earth. As we reflect on Michael's example, remember that the pursuit of holiness is a lifelong journey guided by Christ's love. Take time daily to read scripture, meditate on God's words, and seek a community of faith that truly embodies Christ's teachings, including service to the needy, care for orphans and widows, and outreach that mirrors divine compassion. Join a church that prioritizes both spiritual growth and meaningful action, ensuring your faith is alive and practical. Let Michael's courage inspire you to protect your soul, serve others with love, and live intentionally, knowing that every small step toward God strengthens both your heart and the world around you.